Hello, ladies and gentlemen and everyone in between, and welcome to the fourth episode of this season of Author Talks, the one-person podcast where I, Thomas Wrightson, budding author, do varied things. Today, there are announcements to make, but I also didn't want to leave you without a short story to pass the time. First, announcements. As some of you may have found on my socials recently, I was the winner of a prize at the Pen to Print Awards in Barking and Dagenham late last month. With my script The Angry House, I won the award in their audio competition, which is a feeling I'm still not sure I can fully articulate. As part of the prize, this script is now in the process of being turned into an audio play by Alternative Stories, an audio production studio which you may know from many projects including Emily Inkpen's Dex Legacy series. When completed, The Angry House will be released on podcast platforms for listening worldwide at some point in the future. I've got some timescales here and there, but for the sake of privacy and other stuff, I'm keeping mum on that. Suffice to say, The Angry House shall be appearing in the relatively near future, but not immediately. I have my other projects and the rest of my life and Alternative Stories as a business with a full schedule and other projects and deadlines to focus on, such as the Dex Legacy. All I can say is that going forward, it'll be a pleasure working with them. Next is an update on my third cluster cycle book, The Murderer's Lament. It's in the next stage of things, the tidying, edits and formatting stage. I don't have a date, and the cover is yet to be determined, but I turned in my novel sheet a couple of weeks ago. With that, I continue my slog. My Open University degree shall be entering its second phase in a few months, so suffice to say, I'll be busy. I'll probably have more information on things that might come up later when things have been confirmed. So many things to come up. Until then, I would like to leave you with something I found. A piece of amusing writing created by François-Marie Arouet, otherwise known as Voltaire. He is principally known for his satirical, social and philosophical works. Think Candide and Letters Concerning the English Nation. But this time, it's one of his short stories that I think you'd like. It's still satirical, but it also counts as a kind of proto-science fiction story alongside his 1750s novella Micromegas. Also obvious reader and listener's note, Candide was writing in the 1750s, so some of the language is a little dated. I chose this because there isn't anything truly obviously horribly offensive in it, but, you know, listener discretion advised if you're particularly sensitive. Here now begins my reading of Plato's Dream from 1756. Plato was a great dreamer, as many others have been since his time. He dreamed that mankind were formerly double, and that as punishment for their crimes they were divided into male and female. He undertook to prove that there can be no more than 5 perfect worlds, because there are but 5 regular mathematical bodies. His republic was one of his principal dreams. He dreamed, moreover, that watching arises from sleep, and sleep from watching, and that a person who should attempt to look at an eclipse otherwise than in a pail of water would surely lose his sight. Dreams were at that time in great repute. Here follows one of his dreams, which is not one of the least interesting. He thought that the great Demiurgos, the eternal geometer, having peopled the immensity of space with innumerable globes, was willing to make a trial of the knowledge of the genii who had been witnesses to his work. He gave to each of them a small portion of matter to arrange, nearly in the same manner as Phidias and Zeusis would have given their scholars a statue to carve or a picture to paint, if we may be allowed to compare small things to great. Demogorgon had for his lot the lump of mould which we call the earth, and, having formed it such as it now appears, he thought he had executed a masterpiece. He imagined he had silenced envy herself, and expected to receive the highest panegyrics, even from his brethren. But how great was his surprise when, at his next appearing among them, they received him with a general hiss. One of them, more satirical than the rest, accosted him thus: "Truly you have performed mighty feats. You have divided your world into 2 parts, and to prevent the one from communication with the other, you have carefully placed a vast collection of waters between the 2 hemispheres. the inhabitants must perish with cold under both your poles, or be scorched to death under the equator. You have, in your great prudence, formed immense deserts of sand, so that all who travel over them may die with hunger and thirst. I have no fault to find with your cows, your sheep, your cocks, and your hens, but can never be reconciled to your serpents and your spiders. Your onions and your artichokes are very good things, but I cannot conceive what induced you to scatter such a heap of poisonous plants over the face of the earth, unless it was to poison its inhabitants. Moreover, if I am not mistaken, you have created about 30 different kinds of monkeys, a still greater number of dogs, and only 4 or 5 species of the human race. It is true, indeed, you have bestowed on the latter of these animals a faculty by you called reason, but, in truth, this same reason is a very ridiculous thing, and borders very near upon folly. Besides, you do not seem to have shown any very great regard to this 2-legged creature, seeing you have left him with so few means of defence, subjected him to so many disorders, and provided him with so few remedies, and formed him with such a multitude of passions and so small a portion of wisdom or prudence to resist them. You certainly were not willing that there should remain any great number of these animals on the earth at once, for, without reckoning the dangers to which you have exposed them, you have so ordered matters that, taking every day throughout the year, smallpox will regularly carry off the 10th part of the species, and sister maladies will take the springs of life in the 9 remaining parts. And then, as if this were not sufficient, you have so disposed things that 1/2 of those who survive will be occupied in going to war with the other, or cutting one another's throats. Now they must doubtless be under infinite obligations to you, and it must be owned you have executed a masterpiece. Demogorgon blushed. He was sensible there was much moral and physical evil in this affair, but still he insisted there was more good than ill in it. "It is an easy matter to find fault, good folks," said the genius, "but do not imagine it is so easy to form an animal who, having the gift of reason and free will, should not sometimes abuse his liberty. Do you think that, in rearing between 9 and 10,000 different planets, it is so easy to prevent some few from having noxious qualities? Do you suppose that with a certain quantity of water, sand, and mud, you could make a globe that should have neither seas nor deserts? As for you, my sneering friend, I think you have just finished the planet Jupiter. Let us see now what figure you make with your great belts, and your long nights with 4 moons to enlighten them. Let us examine your worlds, and see whether the inhabitants you have made are exempt from follies or diseases." Accordingly, the genius fell to examining the planet Jupiter, when the laugh went strongly against the laugher. The serious genius who had made the planet Saturn did not escape without his share of the censure, and his brother operators, the makers of Mars, Mercury, and Venus, each had in his turn some reproaches to undergo. Several large volumes and a great number of pamphlets were written on this occasion. Smart sayings and witty repartees flew about on all sides. They railed against and ridiculed each other, and, in short, the disputes were carried on with all the warmth of party heat, when the eternal Demiurgos thus imposed silence upon them all. "In your several performances there is both good and bad, because you have a great share of understanding, but at the same time fall short of perfection. Your works will not endure above 100 million years, after which you will acquire more knowledge and perform much better. It belongs to me alone to create things perfect and immortal." This was the doctrine Plato taught his disciples. One of them, when he had finished his harangue, cried out, "And so you then awoke?" And there you have it. A pretty short piece, but I hope one that's amusing to some. Or maybe just confusing. Voltaire's like that. A bit like Aristophanes is something that some might not get on a first reading. Hopefully you also found some amusement more than an annoyance in my chosen reading style for this one. Things are going to get pretty hectic in the future, but the next few episodes are in the planning stages. The series finale will be, hopefully, a nice long piece on a series I do still really like, I promise. One will be another short story reading, and the other, still flexible. I hope you enjoy what comes and that the coming year will start going easy on us after so many months of many different things trying to cause anxiety attacks in most of the world's population. So, ladies and gentlemen and everyone in between, we end this brief episode. Have a great time and see ya! Hello, ladies and gentlemen and everyone in between, and welcome to the 4th episode of this season of Author Talks, the one-person podcast where I, Thomas Wrightson, budding author... Hello, Spots, we're going to have to read you the introduction now. You just settle down. I'm recording a podcast, Spots. Spots had a really long walk today, he's rather tired. When completed, the Angry Cow... It's in the next stage of things, the tidying and its formatting state. A piece of amusing writing created by Francois Marie Arouet. My God, the amount of times I had to try to pronounce that name. He undertook to prove that His republic was one of his principal dreams. He dreamed, moreover, that the cars outside would ruin the recording. I'm going to have to do this later. Here follows one of his dreams, which is not one of the least interesting. He thought that the great Demiurgos, the eternal geometer, I'm going to restart that, was willing to make a trial of the knowledge of the genie who had Oh, Plato. Not Plato, it's Voltaire. Nearly in the same manner as Phidias and Xixius. Nearly in the same manner as Phidias and Xerxes would have... Nearly in the same manner as Phidias and... You certainly were not willing that... You certainly were not willing that there should be... You certainly were not... And then, as if this were not sufficient, you have so disposed things that one half of those who survive will be occupied in going to law with each other. That's a misprint, it has to be. The shade of this speech! Oh boy!